All right, welcome everybody to today's webinar. We're just jumping on right on time. You know, we like to start right on time. And we're going to get into a topic that's on a lot of tax professionals' minds right now, which is how to or whether to provide more services and offer more services, but trying to keep your costs under control. So you want to help more clients, you want to earn more revenue, but you don't necessarily want to go broke doing it. I think that's probably a fair statement. And so that's something that's on a lot of tax professionals' minds today. And we have a special guest here to go through this topic. Want to just, before we get into everything, just say hello in the chat box. Maybe say what city you're from, say hello, and just make sure that everybody can hear. Hearing is important for these type of events. Terry, what's going on? Maricela, Melissa, welcome everybody. Appreciate you spending time here. So this is going to be the ultra relaxed webinar, like post deadline. There's no stress. Everything is nice and relaxed, and let's just have a fun webinar. So topic is on people's minds. Definitely got some good stuff prepared for you, and we're also going to have some Q&A. So if you have questions as we go through, make sure to put those in the chat box. All right. So with that being said, here we go. The big picture, right, of, and I don't know, Jeff, if you can maybe put these pictures a little smaller so people can see the slides. Oh, there we go. You know, big picture wise, right, industry wise, 2015 until now, self-prepared e-filing up 40%. You know, so we all see that trend has been happening, and it was up 23% just in the recent calendar year tax season for 2020. So we are operating in a new environment. Some of the things that we're seeing our most successful members adapt and change is to add or amplify their entity tax prep offerings. So corporations, partnerships, trusts. B, adding or amplifying tax planning services. So forward-looking consulting related to tax reduction. Adding or amplifying payroll processing. For myself, I never been real into payroll processing, but I do hear our members being successful with that. Adding or amplifying some kind of a bookkeeping or monthly accounting, monthly financial reporting. And so if those topics are on your mind, then the next thing that's probably on your mind is, how much is this going to cost me to add or amplify, you know, these other services, right? Because once you get into offering entity tax prep, right, a lot of times you got to invest a few thousand in training, you know, or training and or support. You've got extra software per return add-ons, insurance upgrades, all different kinds of stuff. Same with tax planning, right? You might pay for new software, new training, payroll processing. All of a sudden, you've got another company attached to your bank account and drawing out. Same with ongoing accounting. You have a lot of ongoing costs that come up, right? And so if you're looking to expand your services and earn more revenue, but you want to keep your costs kind of the same, right? So that your profits go up and that you're not taking so much risk by offering new services or just focusing more on these new services. Like, what is the option where you can offer more services and still keep the cost the same? And so that is the basis of why we have our surprise guest here. We have Stephen Drake here, who has worked at Drake Software for 18 years, 5 years in the support department. So, you know, he's been on the front lines dealing with a lot of different tax pros and the various issues that we have. 3 years in marketing and education, 10 years in the sales department. And he has interacted with over 10,000 tax professionals. As you guys know, Drake is pretty well focused into these smaller tax and accounting groups. They also have larger customers as well, but they kind of have a similar customer group to who we serve. And for fun, Stephen does enjoy hiking in Western North Carolina and swimming. So with all that being said, Stephen, just wanted to welcome you and thank you for attending today.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, happy to have you. So we're going to focus on achieving these four things, showing how to provide corporation, partnership, estate, trust, and nonprofit tax prep without incurring extra costs, how to provide tax planning without incurring extra costs, how to provide payroll services without incurring extra costs, and how to provide bookkeeping, monthly accounting services without incurring extra costs. So all of these points are kind of on that same point, right, of increasing your value to clients, helping clients at a higher level with more services, but also keeping your costs low. And we want to have a fast-paced, it is a free event. It's going to be hands-on, where Stephen actually takes us through how to actually do these things in the software. And we're also going to take Q&A as much as we can. And so this event is featuring Drake software, because Drake software is actually the only way that I found throughout my time in the industry to provide these extra services without adding all those extra costs. And so if you don't have any interest, like you're super happy with your existing software, that's totally fine. And also, we are going to make this training applicable to everybody. But I did want to kind of, let you know ahead of time, whether you use Drake or if you don't, right? If you like what you see as we go through the presentation, we're going to have a special offer at the end of the webinar. If you want to consider the deal that we've put together exclusively with Drake for you. So with that being said, Stephen, let's go ahead and if you take over the screen, and we'll get right into showing how to do number one, which is to do the corporation, partnership, estate, trust, the entity tax prep without having your costs skyrocket.
Absolutely. And let me switch it to the application window so I've got the, I believe I've got what I need here. Open up, is that pulling up the screen or no?
Looks perfect.
Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, I'm ready whenever you are.
Yeah, so I guess, and especially to Stephen, to make sure that everybody gets value out of this training, regardless of if they use Drake or not, is I was curious to see, like, have you been seeing a growth among your user base in terms of preparing these entity returns? And do you have any kind of stats or background or insights you could share with us on that growth?
Absolutely. So obviously, like you said, we are the only ones who do it at no extra cost. So that does lend a lot to the growth we have. Just in S Corp and C Corp, we did over 910,000 returns so far this year, which is, let me see, 8.7%, almost 8.8% higher than what it was last year.
Okay.
So year-over-year growth is increasing, about 80,000, 70 to 80,000 more business returns than we did in the year prior. And if you include all entities, partnership, nonprofit, and fiduciary in those, we file well over $1 million a year.
Yeah, and so you mentioned, and anybody that's been using a different software, we're always accustomed to, and we've discovered at some point along the way that there's, extra fees and per return fees and different things that are added when you start, not just doing 1040s, but doing 1120s, doing 1120s, 1065. So you guys have decided, kind of as far back as I can remember, to include all of those entity modules with the basic software package. Like, what is the philosophy behind doing it that way, relative to the other options?
Well, certainly there are a lot of considerations to take when you make that decision, but the two biggest ones I'd say, early on in our development in the early 80s, when we were just trying to ship everybody what they needed, all their modules, it was a nightmare trying to figure out what needed to go where, and it was simpler to give everybody everything. But two, it's helped our growth. If we give everybody everything that they need, and everything that their practice needs to grow, it draws more people to us, and long term, it's worked out to be a better strategy than what our competitors do.
And so if you're a tax professional that's preparing entity returns now, or you're looking to get into doing more entity returns because you see this increased demand especially for S Corps, definitely partnerships have been up a lot. I'm not sure if you saw as well, Stephen, the recent statistic that actually Q3 for 2020 was the largest amount of new businesses formed in history, in terms of the activity for people forming new businesses. So even though it's been a tough year for small business, we are seeing still statistically a growth in these new businesses.
And a new market as well, absolutely.
Yeah, and so for people that are already doing entity returns, Stephen, or they would like to start, maybe you could give us your insight as a heavy Drake user of some of the features that Drake has to make those entity returns easier, more profitable, and more fun. Absolutely.
So the main purpose of software is to automate things that obviously you can't automate, and that's why we're always going to have the industry that we do, because even something as simple as paint, is paint an expense or capital improvement? Well, it depends on what the scenario is. So things like that you just can't automate in a self-prep software. But then beyond that, what really matters is the time that you save. What else can you automate? What else can you do quickly? And so the first things that I would point out are other time savers that we have. The ability to do a trial balance import, the ability to pull in 4562. So if you've got fixed assets, you can import those. So those are probably the first ones to talk about. Also things like pushing the K1. So if you've prepared this entity return and it's a pass-through entity, you can push those K1s to the individual returns so you don't have to duplicate any of the data entry.
Nice.
So all those things are really the goal of the software in itself.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think the usual scenario for the pass-through entity, if it's a partnership or an S corporation, is we're trying to do the personal return as well, of the owner or owners, and so it looks like Drake kind of allows some flow between the entity return and the individual return as well.
Mm-hmm. We certainly do, yes, and that one's a big time saver. And it's also worth noting, even if it's an entity to entity, if it's a partnership that also has a K1 from an S corp or something along those lines, those can also push. It's not just limited to the 1040.
Right on. And like I said, you guys, I do want to leave plenty of time for Q&A. So we're gonna kind of go through this part of it, make sure we give a good idea of the highlights, but also if you have questions as we're going through this, and even if they're more on a general nature, right, of how to provide some of these services or some of the business side of it. I think probably a lot of you guys have already seen Steven present, and that he's very knowledgeable about the industry overall. So as we go through, make sure to put in any questions that are on your mind, because we have dedicated some time here to do kind of an open format of Q&A. So tax planning, this is the idea, right? And it's kind of a nebulous concept in some ways, especially when you're trying to communicate it to the client, right? Is like the idea of looking forward and providing certain strategies that can reduce taxes, ahead of time, as opposed to just backwards looking at tax preparation. Again, I would just love to get your opinion on, like, is that something that you see your best customers doing more of? And do you think that's like a growth area and growth opportunity for us as tax professionals?
Certainly. As far as that being a growth area and an opportunity for revenue, that is certainly something that we consider. I mean, even on our billing, we have a section for tax planning, and you can add some of those things there. So we do consider that one to be pretty critical. And I would. Is it okay if I show you a couple things about tax planning? But before I do, just cover one quick concept about the software that I think would be helpful to anybody who's not seen it.
That'd be excellent.
Okay. So one of the first things that you'll note when you're here in the software, and I need to, I should have it do the shared application so I can annotate. But having said that, there are two different forms of the software, or menus, I should say. We have the data entry menu, where you've got these tabs and different data entry screens. And just like you expect, you can click a tab and click a screen to get to those screens. So point and click works like you'd expect. What I'd also like to point out is all of these screens have codes. So down at the bottom, you can type in the code to pull up those screens. But alternatively, you may be used to working off the form, or you may know where something goes on the form. And we also give you the ability to work from the form. So if you want to go to gross receipts on line 1A, you can right click it, and there's a review input sources option. Cool. So you have the ability to find data entry screens from both the view mode and the main overview of data entry. So I think that's an important one to address before we get started.
Definitely.
And as you can see here, we've got 20,000 currently flowing from the gross receipts and sales line of the income screen. But you can link to screens as well as particular lines and get straight to where you need to get into data entry. And then at any point in time, you can just jump back to the view mode. So again, that's one of the things that the software does to increase your productivity and to work for different workflows, depending on how you're used to preparing a return. But then beyond that, the question about tax planning, that one's a really big one, not just with things like, of course, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was huge. It obviously was a huge impetus for doing tax planning, because tax rates changed. There was QBI, there were introductions of new tax law and deletion of old tax law. So a pretty broad sweeping change. But even something like the CARES Act, as you guys know, the carrybacks for NOL was reintroduced. So we not only had to update 2019, but 2018, 2017. And those types of things are pretty critical in tax planning. And what I want to show you is, while we do have a tax planner in the individual package, and I could show that one to you guys if you want, that can also generate a comparison worksheet, What we're also able to do is to do test scenarios, or almost a what if of this return. So I can go to the archive manager and we can create an archive. We can just archive this one. We'll just say return before testing. But if we wanted to do a test or tax plan, we could do that. And then what we have is this return state is saved as it is. And then if we wanted to make any changes, we could. If we wanted to see what would happen if they had some additional deductions, or if we wanted to just look at how things would change on their return. That's one of the things that you're able to do here. So it's a quick example. We'll change income from 20 to 50,000 just on gross receipts. And then if you were to view again, you have the ability to, one, print a copy of the 1120S if you wanted to, but two, you could start looking at the tax year comparison. Show things like marginal effective tax rates. You'd have access to those towards the bottom, but you're able to see what the return looks like compared to prior years and also on the current year. So where you can see things like taxable income, among others here. But
yeah, interesting, because I think what happens with tax planning or with offering new services in general, right, is you already are using different software programs, and then it's kind of adding another layer of complexity of how do you get the data from the tax prep software into like a third-party program. And I think so. It seems like this is kind of an easier, faster way directly from in your tax prep software to kind of provide that report to the client of, this is what it might look like differently, or at least, give some planning, basics.
And then if you've done any of these projections and you need to take anything back, you can just restore the return as it was, and then you're good to go.
Okay, interesting. And so that is the way, like, how would, let's say, your best users that are using Drake for tax planning and for tax projections, is that the method that they would normally use, or is there other areas that we can optimize as well?
So it depends on if it's an individual or business return. So as I mentioned, the individual return does actually have a tax planner that can generate a comparison worksheet. But the aspect of a business return is slightly different. There are just some differences on it. So a lot of times people just want to see, what's the M1 or M2 look like if we had some differences here, or what would that what changes or scenarios would we be looking at. But you also have, just in general, if somebody's doing it with a business return, what they're going to typically do is they're going to print the forms or schedules that may need to be different or may be part of that projection, and then the summary as well as a comparison is typically what those do for best practices.
Gotcha. Okay. But then in the 1040 software itself, there is a full, like a tax planning, tax projections module, you could say.
Yeah, so in the 1040 package, it takes it just a step further. It allows you to create different scenarios, and then it can actually do a comparison worksheet that compares the current return to the other return instead of just comparing it in the existing scenario.
Gotcha. Okay, and I want to address too, for people that are already using another software and are really happy with it. That's why I kind of wanted to mention at the front, that we are going to go through like how Drake addresses this to make this a valuable training for everybody, no matter what software you're using. Like, definitely feel free to ask questions that might be on your mind more generally. But also do want to make sure that we respect everybody's time as far as like, if you don't want to use Drake or have no interest in seeing how Drake works, it's okay to, to log off at this point. But also, if you do have any more general questions, feel free to put them in the chat box there, and we'll make sure that it's valuable for everybody to be here. But I do want to make that clear. And so so people that are offering tax planning as a service, do you see a lot of users like needing to buy another software, or can they adequately provide and meet this need and provide like a paid service through what's already included in your guys' package?
So I think that there are a couple things to note with tax planning. One, tax planning is best to occur when tax practices usually aren't as busy. Of course, I would say right towards the end of the year, November, December. Of course, you've got organizers going out, but you're not really in the heat of tax season. So it is a good way, one, to produce revenue and to generate some extra work during the somewhat of off season. But as far as to answer the questions in terms of what people need, some do buy separate programs. That used to be the case with Drake about 10 years ago. You did need to buy a separate program, and then we bought a separate tax planner and just had it as a separate Excel spreadsheet where you could enter some information and then generate some projections. But now that it's integrated with the software, I would say most Drake users do not have to get a separate tax planner, that it's housed in the software and accomplishes what they need.
Okay, interesting. And so a good question we had here from Catherine Moore. This is actually a great question, and this is definitely one of those put you on the spot ones. So, but I know you can handle it. But the CARES Act NOL carryback, and that's actually something we've been working on some training for. In terms of using that carryback, is that easy to do within the software?
Yes. Fortunately, it is. So there is for NOLs. Let me go to we actually have. Let me go to the loss screen. There's a section for. There's the capital losses, but then there's 1045.
And so just as Steven's putting that together for you guys, just wanted to make sure that, and again, with the idea that everybody getting value from this training, no matter what software you use, we're talking here about the ability for that the CARES Act made, right, where we can carry back the net operating losses now all the way back to 2015. And so for your clients that either had a business loss or a net operating loss, I should say, in 2019, or also in 2018, or certainly in 2020, this is amended return opportunities for you, to basically recover back some tax paid from previous years. So actually a pretty good opportunity if you can segment your database for people that have net operating losses.
Okay. And so as far as the net operating losses go, it's a little bit different between business and individual. So for individual, it's pretty simple. There is just a loss screen where you can put anything that was used in prior years, and then anything that you need to carry forward. Those are available there for you. But then as far as with a business return, the screens and options for it are slightly different. And as far as where to key it, let me see here. We've got election options. I need to get that one. I believe we've got it.
Yeah, that definitely falls into the put you on the spot category. But
okay, that's what I like.
I know whenever I'm working with net operating losses, I got to do a lot of clicking around to see where where the stuff goes.
Right, and that one. Let me see here. As I mentioned, it is a little bit different, but I can get that one in just a moment too, if you'd like. That's not a problem.
Yeah, and so maybe we can use this opportunity to actually just do a quick poll of who's currently offering tax planning as a paid service. And let me pop that poll up and see how many of you guys are currently offering tax planning as a paid service. It's definitely something we hear a lot of talk about, but it'd be interesting to see some actual numbers about how many of you guys are already doing this. And also maybe some comments in the chat, you guys, as Steven's lining this up, of are you using a different software, or are you doing it through your current software? And maybe you can hit us up on the chat of that, because remember the whole point of this training was to see for how you can add these high value services, but without adding more cost. I think hopefully I made that clear at the beginning of it, because I think that's and for people that are like, well, I didn't know this was turned into a Drake training, is that I totally get it. It's totally fine. The thing is that this is the only way that we found to actually do that, right? So there's not really like another option to do these same things without raising your costs. And so, but let's see on this poll, you guys. We have 28% of people of tax pros on this webinar right now are saying, Stephen, that they are currently offering tax planning as a paid service, and 71% no. Okay.
So as far as those that do, I certainly think that it would be interesting too to see, and I don't know if this is one we want to do at the moment, but how many of those offered it before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act? Because I know that one changed how many people asked about the tax planning, and that one we could do another day. But I certainly think that that's an interesting statistic there as far as how many offer that.
Yeah, and also you guys for tax planning, I mean, and Tiffany, she always has great points, but in the chat, she just said here, like, I offer tax planning for those who think they're going to owe and are going to pay, are concerned about paying estimated payments. So there may be certain like narrower situations like that, where that you have like a clear service that with a clear deliverable, like here's your estimateds that you should keep in mind, so you don't get your budget all messed up, right, and show up at tax time with no money. So there, as you wade into tax planning, and I know myself having offered that service over the years, is try to identify those like particular areas, like maybe it's this carryback NOL situation from the CARES Act, like that you're really confident with, and kind of define like smaller services. Does that make sense, Stephen?
It does. And one, I want to apologize for me getting a little lost there for a second on the S Corp. In the C Corp, this is where our net operating losses, regular capital losses, contribution carryovers, all those are. S Corps are handled a little bit differently there, and I apologize for my stumbling, but I'll prevent doing that in the future.
Oh, it's all good, man. We appreciate you being with us here today. And so, speaking of stumbling, whenever I think of providing payroll services, I think of myself stumbling around and actually feeling like payroll services was like really a nemesis as we started working with more business clients. I was never confident of what was going on. I always felt like we were paying a lot to other third parties to be able to provide payroll. I guess as a general like industry insight, Stephen, do you see a lot of your best customers providing payroll services? Is that a growth area? Is that a profitable area? What do you see from your vantage point?
So as far as payroll services, I think it helps to define that a little bit first off, because we have, as far as those who use Drake Accounting, we have over 17,000 customers that purchase and use Drake Accounting. Of those, the ones that actually do a full service payroll, I'd say it's 3,000 to 4,000. The reason that you have such a discrepancy is some of those people may just be someone that they've got a business that comes in and says, you know what, I actually had some employees. We need to issue some W-2s, or we need to issue some 1099s. You can do that at no extra cost in Drake. And most everybody else charges more at bare minimum, at least $1 per W-2 or 1099. And those are things we do at no cost. And we also have an on-the-fly option for it. So you don't have to have prepared their payroll or done anything along those lines. You can quite literally come in and say, I need to create a 1099 miscellaneous. And then you can just start filling in the required information. Here we've got a social, here we've got a name, and then you move forward. So the ability to do that portion is what makes this so appealing to people, I think, is because you can just enter what you need. Maybe it's some non-employee compensation. Obviously, that one's obviously changing this year because now we're going to have the 1099 specifically for what the name of that 1099, pardon me, but we're going to have one specifically for non-employee compensation. But
yeah, the NEC.
NEC, perfect, thank you. But if we want to say it's other income, we could just put 3,000 here, 3,300, save it. You can e-file it, and you've got all that there. But as you mentioned, the cost factor is really prohibitive for a lot of people. With our accounting, it's one price, and that covers you. It includes everything from live and after the fact payroll to filing W-2s, 1099s, 941s, all your 94X forms, actually, all those things. The only thing that has any extra cost with Drake is if you choose to use direct deposit. So if you want a direct deposit, that one's facilitated by CodaPay. That's the only thing that has extra cost. Everything else, all forms, all filings, no extra fee.
Yeah, and so for people that are kind of like, for instance, I see Terry Chrisman on here. So if you're working with business clients where you're providing like a suite of services, you're working with their accounting, their reporting, you're doing their payroll, you're doing their taxes, you're also looking at their tax planning, their tax projections, stuff like that. This is kind of the solution to be able to do all that without incurring 5 different bills or 10 different bills. And even, making 1099s, I can only imagine what's going to be going on next year at the beginning of the year as people are trying to get out all their W-2s and their 1099s. So just to be able to do this without extra cost is something that we just really wanted to highlight and get Stephen's viewpoint on. And so another thing or did you want to mention anything else on payroll, Stephen?
Well, not necessarily on payroll, but just some of the extra capabilities that it has. So let's go for it. Pardon me.
Yeah, and we'll also be addressing your guys' questions too in a second here. So we're keeping track of the questions Jeff is, and we'll definitely be getting to those. Did you want to move on, Stephen, to say I want to provide bookkeeping or monthly accounting,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously there's different formats of that, right? Of like what's included in the service and stuff that we got to figure out as service providers. But again, just starting with a like big picture. How does, because QuickBooks and Intuit is kind of like the default option for a lot of small business owners. How does like Drake's accounting suite compare to that option?
So the first thing to note is like you said, there's just no way around the fact that QuickBooks does have a pretty big corner on the market. So even if you're not using QuickBooks, it's not uncommon for your clients to be using QuickBooks. So one of the first things we have is the ability to actually import QuickBooks data, as well as Sage, EasyAct, and Dillners. But we have direct imports for those in addition to spreadsheet imports. But something else, I needed to find the option. There's actually an option to customize the software to actually display a little bit more like what you may be used to there. Let me do it. There's an alternative desktop view. Let me save, exit. So you can have the software look a little bit more similar to QuickBooks, have it kind of sectioned out to where you have, I should switch the annotation, but the way I've got my screen, I apologize. But here in the top left, you have the employees section where you've got everything from payroll, printing checks, direct deposit, whatever you want to do there. And also it's worth noting we handle the state forms. So we handle state forms, we handle state unemployment withholding, among others. But then if you want to do accounting, if you want to do bookkeeping, you want to do payroll, all those other features are there. We can do AR, AP, and we also have the ability to generate crystal reports. There are a lot of crystal reports available. So if you want cash flow statements, profit and loss statements, you can generate all those things from crystal reports and generate what you need. If you want to do the chart of account, whatever it may be, but any of those deliverables that you need for the client, anything that they may need for the owners, the investors, creditors, to have a clear idea of the business picture, that can all be done in Drake Accounting.
Yeah, and so what we're talking about here is not incurring one of those software as a service, monthly charges. And we all know that those are a lot of times per client charges. So the more clients you add, and it kind of eats into your margin a lot. So I actually found out about this Drake accounting suite from an accountant that was really, really experienced and I think he had like a bunch of clients on there, like 100 something clients, and was saying that it worked totally great. And I actually wasn't even aware that it was such a strong option. And so we do hear, especially if somebody's thinking about doing more bookkeeping or accounting, Stephen, we do hear this concept of write-up services. So as kind of like a base service, a place to start. What are, in your view, what are write-up services, and why would those be valuable to a business client?
So write-up services are really just any work that you do as the accountant to provide a clear picture for the business. Anything that you do for, once again, if it's a profit and loss statement, if it's a cash flow statement, if it's just helping even budget hours, because that's something that we can do in Drake Accounting as well. You can set payroll budgets, hourly budgets. You can set it to where maybe you anticipate them to get 43 hours a week or 42, whatever it may be. Anything that you're doing to help them get a clearer idea of the financial health of the business, I consider write-up work.
Okay, so like providing financial statements, profit and loss statements, and different reports, you would say, is kind of the core function?
Yes, sir, correct.
Okay. And so I do want to get you guys to, we were budgeted for about 30 minutes. We're at 33 minutes now. So I want to get to the Q&A part of it and also get to the special offer part of it. In terms of, and we kind of talked about how we're not adding new costs to provide these new services, Stephen. So, and we're going to get into in a second the special offer that allows people to do that if they want to do that. But how much does the accounting suite normally cost if I buy it directly through Drake? Because I know there's a few different options with that.
So it depends, as you mentioned, it does depend a little on the option. If you do the full accounting program that has everything, if you do Accounting Pro, which not only includes W-2s and 1099s, but the full payroll, the full accounting, that one's $795. Right now we offer $50 off, so you can get it at $745. If you're wanting just the federal forms, W-2s, 1099s, things like that. Just a forms package, we have that at $395. And if you were to get our unlimited tax at $1,495 and wanted to add accounting later, we'd add it at $395 after the fact.
Okay, very cool. So that kind of gives you guys a basis for consideration as far as the cost, and you can certainly compare that to the existing costs you might be paying using a different software, or you might just want to learn more about it. So we are going to get into some questions right now as far as making sure that we address the questions that came into the chat, and then also want to get back to our start
the slide.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. So hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we're going to get right into the offer and get into the answering the questions right now. In terms of the opportunity overall from doing this, right? Like, why do we go to all this work to put together this training for you and try to tailor this to the needs of the audience that we work with, which is mainly independent tax pros with 1 to 4 people as far as team size. And so there's a lot of tax pros right now that are in something like this situation, right? Where they might have 200 clients charging about $200, maybe $300, maybe $400. And so the revenue at that level is about $40,000, right? And so what we're seeing people do is be able to transition into dealing with more business clients and maybe getting that average fee up to $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, or even more. And having still not a ton of clients, right? But having the revenue go way up. And so what happens is that what we're concerned about of people that are trying to kind of make that lift, that leap, Stephen, is people that they're trying to do it right, but they're incurring like so many costs and so much risk in the process, of like trying to kind of stretch out to that next point. And so what I feel like, we were really excited to put this exclusive deal together with you guys, because it's like you can make that leap, you can do those things, but without incurring and going broke in the meantime, right? So adding more services, increasing revenue without adding a lot more cost is kind of the basis of why we chose to work together. This is also another basis of why we chose to put this deal together for our members. You can see all these #1 rankings. I wish we had this many #1 rankings. So there's a nice amount of #1 rankings, and based on actual users, what they say. And so let's get down as we get into the Q&A. This is the offer that we've put together for you guys. And you can see here that we've basically added stuff to Drake's regular offer that is intended to help you acquire clients. So we have a bunch of marketing resources that we've given that are just plug and play that you can use for acquiring and retaining clients. And also you get all the software stuff that comes along, including programs all the way back to 2002. So for those back taxes jobs that we know are so plentiful and lucrative right now. And so that's the core offer that we have. What I wanted to do also for this webinar is actually do a special offer. Once you buy the actual software through Pronto, and you can see our price here that we're able to offer since we are buying in bulk, and also providing these additional resources. So if you want to take advantage of that offer, just go to that website, bit.ly/1099 bonus. And you'll be able to take advantage of that. So with that being said, let's go into the Q&A. And let's see. Salvador says, is the Drake tax software and accounting software integrated? How much will it cost? I think we addressed that. Chastity says, is that a yearly cost? So yeah, all software, Chastity, is going to be always a yearly investment as far as getting all the new updates and that year's software. And Denise says, Stephen, I've been using Drake for over 5 years and learned new things today from you. Thanks. And is there a good Drake link to a video that can keep me updated? Because I know you guys do a lot of training and videos on your software. If people wanted to get more training and kind of see how stuff works, Stephen, what's the best place for them to go? So
the best one for that is going to be our training website, drakeetc.com. They can all set up accounts there. They can even do it free before they sign up. So that would be probably the best one to go to for videos and tutorials. Okay, so drakeetc.com if you want to see a bunch more videos. Denise says, and this is a common question that people ask before they make a software purchasing decision, does it include all the state forms? Yes. So it includes everything that we offer at Drake, which is all states, all return types, all filing. It includes the document manager. It includes the scheduler. If you get it with the accounting, obviously it includes the accounting as well. So it offers everything that, or includes everything that we offer that's related to tax preparation, related to tax software and the accounting software. So everything's included.
Very cool. And so Mark's put me on the spot. He's got me on the clock here for when we're going to get our business tax verified training program back online. I'm glad you brought that up, Mark, because this Drake offer and that program actually go really, really well together in terms of giving you that pathway to start increasing your revenue and your service level, frankly, to the business clients. So just rest assured, Mark, I'm working as hard as I can to get all that updated. And it should be out soon. So we'll definitely let you know. Behzad, Fatih, Stephen had a good question that I think especially people that are using like a QuickBooks Online would ask is,
can it sync to bank account?
Yeah, what's the story on that?
So that is possible. So you do have the ability to have it synced to the client's bank account if you'd like to do direct deposit, and it can be more than just direct deposit for employee payments. It can be invoicing to any business clients, anything along those lines. You can have CodaPay also facilitate those transfers, ACH from your bank to theirs, and the cost for that they do ask that they quote it, but it's typically about $10 per month per employer. Usually in that range, but there are a few mitigating factors.
Okay, great. And then so Yvette and actually Rebecca asked this too. So this bonus that we're offering for this special offer, you guys, is it's gonna be the Drake Accounting Professional Edition. So the full edition that includes the payroll, the highest end edition. I'm gonna take care of you guys on that. So I'm really kind of stretching to be able to offer you guys this deal. And so I hope if it's not a good fit for you, definitely no worries, stick with where you're at. But if it is a good fit for you, I wanted to have an amazing offer for you. And so there is something to mention as far as Yvette's question. So the arrangement that we have with Stephen and with, us working together is that we don't undercut pricing or try to take customers, that are existing customers for them. So if you've already paid and bought your Drake, just be happy with the value that you're getting already. And we're not in the business of going backwards in time and doing that other kind of stuff. So just kind of, keep with where you're at. And if you want to download a demo, if you want to go to drakeetc.com and watch some videos, if you want to look at the sales page also for that we have that shows all the extras. So you could go and buy direct from Drake, right? And that, would be a fine decision as well. But we want to make sure that the package that we're offering has all those extras that you might need, as far as acquiring clients, retaining clients. And Stephen, maybe you can, give some input on, I know for us independent tax pros, the marketing side of it is always a bit of a challenge. We always have these plans to get our email marketing system set up, but then it's 3 years later and it hasn't happened. Talk a little bit about the marketing resources we put in our package and whether you think there's some value there for our members.
Absolutely. So something that Drake used to do, and we did used to do that, but unfortunately now we don't have marketing kits, and we used to even go as far as banners, buttons, things like that. But those things are absolutely critical because they're part of how you run your business. But again, just like software is to automate or to free yourself up for the higher level issues that you need to address. That's the same thing. Being able to have some sort of marketing plan that you don't have to think about, so you can focus on the tax preparation, is something that's critical to you. And as was mentioned with Drake, you get all these things. There's not anything that you don't get if you go with Pronto. One of the questions I saw here was, do you still get the 1040.com website? You do. There's not anything that we offer that you don't get with Pronto, and then you get what Pronto's also offering at a lower price too. So that really speaks to, one, how much we trust Pronto, but two, the scale that they have, and obviously they've been able to put us in front of people that we weren't ready before, and so that's one of the reasons we were able to do this. But certainly those marketing tools are going to be something pretty beneficial to you. And Andy, do you mind if I just note 3 more questions that I saw that I did want to address?
Absolutely.
Okay. So one of the first ones I saw was somebody said one about Pro Series. Obviously, I'm gonna say that Drake's gonna be better, but it's good that Andy had the #1 rating. Journal of Accountancy and AICPA's survey rated us #1 this year, last year, and the year before. NATP's survey rated us #1 overall. And we get #1 in a lot of different categories. Most recommended for new practice, updates during tax season, among others, quality of technical support. The average wait is just 6 seconds to get someone on the phone during tax season. So those things really make a difference. But as far as Pro Series, we have the Pro Series conversion out now, and we can convert from other packages as well. Typically, well, all of them we can get your 1040s, and then typically we can get your 1065s, 1120s, 1120s, and 1041s. There's a pretty wide range there.
Very cool. And so as people are moving towards like making a decision of whether they want to take advantage of this special offer, we definitely want to address those questions that are coming in here. Like Rebecca saying, is payroll included with this offer? And the answer to that would be yes. I do want to just re-emphasize what Stephen said about it was extremely important to us when we set up this arrangement was that like we would never have our members losing something by going with an offer that we have, so everything that you would get normally through Drake, you're also going to get through this deal. And that was something that Stephen and I kind of hashed out ahead of time to make sure that we are always putting you guys in the position where we can add value and add, to just help you out, and make sure that you don't lose anything. So I think they'll appreciate you making that point. Linda, one of our best members, had a question saying, what would the following year cost if we purchase this package? So we work really hard, Linda, to keep our pricing very steady. And so we don't really have like a crystal ball of what's going to happen in the future. But I can say if you look at our track record, we've really tried to keep pretty steady on our prices. And I think Drake, if you look at their track record for affordability and not having huge price hikes like some other software providers have undertaken, I've got to give them a lot of credit in that department as well. Can I use Drake and Drake Accounting, Stephen, with the MacBook? And that's a question from Carlos Navarro.
Okay, so that one, and I see we got another one that asked that too. So it doesn't work directly on a Mac. However, if you install Windows on it, it does work. So you can use Apple's Boot Camp or some sort of virtual machine software. Personally, I've used Parallels Desktop and installed Windows and even done presentations on the software with it. So it runs pretty well there.
Awesome. Yeah, and that is a common question. There's a couple workarounds on that, which have gotten better over the years, and so I think that is doable by one of those workarounds. Virginia says, can current Drake users get the marketing tools? Reach out to us, Virginia. We didn't actually set up a way to make that happen, but shoot me an email and we can see if we can help you out on that. Rick said, what if we already purchased the Pronto tax software? Well, first of all, thank you, Rick, and you're also getting all the stuff that you're already getting, which includes a lot of this package as well. So you should be good on that. And then Lucretia says, is this in addition to the Pronto tax software or takes the place? So we have two options for tax software that where we provide the software through our exclusive relationships, and then we provide a bunch of extra training and all these other marketing and client acquisition resources. So we have for our 1040, like if you're just doing 1040 returns, then we have one option, and that's on our website. And Drake, our partnership with Drake is for somebody that wants to do all business returns as well. So if you don't want to pay any extra to do these entity returns, if you want to get into doing accounting and bookkeeping and have a great option for that. And so not every tax preparer, right, wants to do that. And I'm sure you see that too in the industry, Stephen, where some people, they really want to stick to doing 1040s. Some want to also start adding these business services. And so we want to have a solution that's the right fit for each type of tax pro. And Drake has been, the solution that works best for people that want to work with the business clients and want to work with these extra services without adding a bunch of cost. And so just if you have any questions about that too, Lucretia, make sure to reach out to us because we want to make sure to answer any questions you might have about your particular situation. So Carlos had another good question, Stephen, which was, is this going to be a good fit for a first-year tax preparer?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the other things we got a #1 rating on there is most recommended for a new practice. So it is a great fit for that. One of the things I would say, Drake, is it is at least geared typically towards a tax preparer that at least has an intermediate level of tax knowledge or higher. It's not interview based, so it doesn't prompt you questions to ask, but you can generate questionnaires off of our organizers, so that can lead the interview. It's just not prompted in the software, but I would say certainly it is a great start for new practice.
Yeah, good points there. And this is a desktop or online software?
It is by default, it is a desktop software, but we do have a hosting option at an extra cost, or they're welcome to get their own third-party hosting too.
Gotcha. Okay, so you can do like a cloud server, you guys, where you could put it on the server and be able to have like a remote login type option if you want to have that, which a lot of people do now, where they want to have the ability to be mobile, or they're working remotely, they're working at home. So that's definitely a big thing, and I know that Drake is able to be compatible with those options if that's important to you guys. What would you say about migrating data? That's always a concern, especially with some of these business returns, right, Stephen? Yeah. Where, like Milton has a question here about migrating data from Lacert to Drake, and maybe you could even comment on generally the migration of data. Is it how big of a headache is it? How much does it work or not work? And what's your view on that?
So as far as the conversion goes, there is not a perfect conversion out there. Even Intuit can't convert everything from Lacert to Pro Series or vice versa. But ours does get rated #1. But what you need to keep an eye out for, what you can expect, we do have our Lacert conversion available now, for example, and it will get your trust returns, your S Corps, your partnerships, your C Corps, and your 1040. You'll get things like your fixed assets, so your federal, state, AMT, and book depreciation will come over. If you're talking about, for example, a 1040, your basic schedules, A, B, C, D, E, and F are going to come over. The things typically that are going to carry forward from year to year are going to come over in that conversion. You do need to keep an eye out on your carryovers. We get the capital loss carryovers, but not the NOLs or some of the passive losses. So reviewing your carryover worksheet as well as the main form is typically what you want to do after the conversion, but we let you convert your 19 data to 19 Drake. That way you can compare the same tax year and then pull it forward once you're ready to go.
Awesome. Yeah. And so we realize too that that's a big part of the big part of the decision for you guys. So if that's something that you're concerned about, relative to your particular software, definitely feel free to reach out to our support. And, we only want you to undertake dealing with a new software if it's going to be a good fit for you, like all sincerity. So we just want whatever's best for you guys. And we try to bring, this type of exclusive offer to you guys with that in mind. But we also want to make sure that whatever your individual situation is, that you feel good about it, you feel confident. There's always going to be a little bit of a learning curve with doing a new software. There's no way around that, right? But they do have a lot of things in place to make that process easy. Celerina said, so if she goes for the bonus that we put together right now to take care of that Drake accounting suite for everyone that buys this offer, Celerina has a question: is the accounting package prices for unlimited clients? And I believe that is, right?
It is, yes. It is for unlimited clients. And do you mind if I also add a question Milton had to it that I think dovetails with it?
Absolutely.
So not only is the accounting for unlimited clients, the taxes for unlimited clients, and the license is a site license. So it covers multiple users. If you have 5 computers or 10 computers, that's covered for both the accounting and the tax with that package. You wouldn't need any additional licensing. You would be covered there.
Yeah. So if you have a team, that you can add users to your team and be at no extra cost. I think that definitely is something to highlight. We're not real into extra costs here, so there's no per return fee. There's nothing where like you're going to get the software and then find out X, Y, and Z. If you do use bank products, right? There's maybe you can talk for a second, Stephen, about. We don't have any fee on the bank products for Drake, but there is. Could you break down a couple of those costs if people use bank products?
So as far as bank products go, we do have a total transmission and technology fee of $13.95. So one is $11.95, the other is $2, and they total $13.95. So that is the total transmission and technology fee. If you are offering bank products, we work with all 5 banks in the industry. You can choose which one you prefer to work with, and you can offer those products. And whatever the bank charges, you add $13.95, and that's the total fee that's on it.
Yeah, and if you guys want to compare the $13.95 to any of the other transmitter fees that are out there, you definitely, if you're running your numbers, we always like to run numbers. Mm-hmm. So feel free to do that as part of your decision-making process.
You'll note too that Intuit now added a transmission technology fee that's not only did they add one, but it's higher than ours.
Yeah, so if you're into running numbers, which most of you guys are, right. just run them, right? And then just remember to keep that website in mind, that bit.ly/1099 bonus. So make sure to shop all around, do all the numbers, run all the numbers. The more numbers that you run, the better that this deal is going to look, in my humble opinion. And so it's definitely a privilege to be able to bring this exclusive deal to you guys. Sherry's question about the unlimited return. So it's unlimited returns, no per return cost. Is this only desktop based? I think we touched on that. Can you email us the Pronto offer link? Jeff, if you wouldn't mind just putting that in the chat box, and I think we'll probably have that in the replay that we send you guys as well. But you can just plug it into your browser, Bezod, and you'll see it, or you can grab it from the chat room. Can you please reiterate? Milton said, "Oh, Milton's interested." Milton's like, "I'm about to get this." What's up, Milton? How you doing, man? Thanks for attending. Can you please reiterate the fees for direct deposit, for refunds or payments? And so I want to make clear, Milton, that I'm pretty sure Steven's talking about the direct deposit for payroll, right? Not for tax refunds, right?
Correct. So we've got there. We talked about the transmission technology fee, which is for the tax refund if it's the bank product. But then there's the fee for direct deposit and payroll. Do you mind to ask Milton if he minds to elaborate on that one?
Yeah, but I think might be thinking that there's a fee for direct deposit of the tax refund.
And that there's not. If you're using the 8880, just the standard IRS direct deposit, there's no fee for that.
Yeah, so the fees only come in, Milton, if you're using like a bank product, right? A third-party bank product.
Absolutely.
In which case there's the bank facilitating it, and so there's a little bit of extra cost there. Like I said, though, a lot less than industry standard in this case. So if you're into saving costs, still having a very high-quality experience, we feel like this it fits that mold. Tiffany says, if we have someone in California and someone in Texas, would we have to buy an extra license? And how much would the extra license be? Or if let's say that she has it on like a cloud server, can people access it from different locations? Is that okay?
So as far as the licensing goes, the way we handle it is we look at it as a tax office, because obviously you're going to have times where you're not in the office, you need to work from home, you need to go to the client's house. So we don't just limit you to that location. What we typically are looking at is if you have two offices that receive clients at the same time, or potentially two EFINs. So if there's an office and a storefront in California and one in Texas, or both have EFINs, then we would look at an additional license, but otherwise, no.
Yeah, and I know that's kind of a fluid situation for a lot of people right now, because people might be working at home, and depending obviously on your health situation or whether you're kids or you're taking care of your parents. I mean, everything's kind of in a little bit of chaos right now for that. So there is a way to facilitate that working offline, Tiffany. And again, if you have specific questions about your specific situation, Steven's actually super responsive as well when we get in touch with him and, able to answer specific questions. So we would want to make sure if you move forward with taking advantage of this offer that it works for you, for you particularly. So feel free to reach out with any questions. And Tiffany, also, thanks for attending. Denitza, what's going on? Denitza says, do you need to be licensed for payroll providing? What's the status of that?
So one thing you will need, you will want to get a transmission control code. So you want a TCC code from the IRS. That's the only thing you'll need in addition to an EFIN or anything that you already have to prepare tax returns. So just a TCC code, and then you're good to go. And then do you mind if I go over two other questions that I did want to note that it looks like we skipped?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're interested in doing payroll, and especially if it's going to be new to you, you need that TCC code, and you may want to just write that down to make sure, and obviously when you got onto the product, you'd be able to kind of figure out how to do that. But I appreciate you mentioning that. And what other questions did you want to hit on, Stephen?
Had one, can we convert from TaxWise? That one, yes, absolutely we can. And then another, if my internet goes down, will your software still work? On that one, yes, it will. The only thing that wouldn't work is e-filing, but you're still able to create returns, still able to prepare. You wouldn't be prevented from doing anything except obviously e-filing the returns or updating. Yeah,
absolutely. And Monique says, just to be clear, which absolutely wanted to be 100% clear, I do returns from multiple states. And do I need to buy each state, or is everything all included?
You do not need to buy any additional states. All states are included, and we include all 48 that levy some sort of an income tax.
Right on. And so what about doing taxes of previous years? And that is something, if we go back to our main offer page here, what we were able to negotiate for you guys was actually all the way back to 2002 of Drake programs with the purchase of this year's program. And so that's intended to help you do all those back taxes jobs, or actually there's a lot of non-filers and multiple years, and those are actually can be quite profitable if you get good at doing those. What do you guys see, and how do you see the back taxes and the multiple years of filing playing into our current scenario?
So, especially this year, you had quite an influx of people who hadn't been filing in a while, whether it's they didn't have a filing requirement or they just didn't consider it necessary. A lot of people this year filed prior year returns when they hadn't before. So having that included is going to be a big one. But just in general, the tax reconciliation or resolution work is what the word I'm looking for. Tax resolution, just in general, those prior years. Some firms, that's all they do is just prior year work, and there is obviously once again a market there, and the fact that we don't charge for it is pretty unique in the industry as well, because all of our competitors, as far as I know, do have some sort of charge for those prior year returns.
Yeah, and that's definitely something we wanted to bring to you guys with the offer, because we see for our members that are really growing their clientele and their revenue aggressively, a lot of them are doing and focusing on tax problem resolution. So if you guys have been on our email list, you already know we've been kind of banging that drum for about a year and a half now, and helping people feel confident doing that kind of work. But if you want to be able to do that kind of work, and somebody comes in where they need 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years filed, and you don't want to have an extra bunch of costs that you have to pay to be able to do that work, right? Because as service providers, every cost that we have to pay to be able to even do the work is going to eat into our profit margin, right? And so this offer is all about keeping those costs, nice and affordable, and at a steady rate, while you increase your value to clients, and provide the tax problem resolution, the business services type of work, right? Like payroll, bookkeeping. So these are all things that we see our members growing, and we want to just have a way for you guys to participate in that without having to shell out a lot more money. So judging by the number of people that are still stayed on the webinar, I think maybe that might be a popular kind of concept. But again, if you have specific questions, you guys, about like, this is my specific situation, right? Is this the right fit for me? Definitely reach out to us, support@prontotaxschool.com. If I need to get in touch with Steven about something, like I said, he always addresses stuff very well. And so maybe we can put it this way, Steven, as we start to move towards wrapping it up, is like, what does the learning curve look like, right? Like how many hours of kind of like getting used to the software, and how would we measure that or think about that before jumping into this?
So again, that one is one that can vary slightly depending on where you're coming from. I see Milton asked about that a little bit earlier, it seems, and he also mentioned Lacert. Somebody that's making the switch from Lacert is going to have a little bit easier of a learning curve than somebody making the switch from Pro Series, because both are menu driven. So typically I say about 10 to 15 returns. Once you've prepared about 10 to 15 tax returns, you have a general idea of how to find the screens you're looking for in Drake, where to go. And especially with the ability to still link from the view mode as well as to search through data entry. You can type in a description and pull up screens that way. You can use codes. There are quite a few things that help with the acclimation. But again, 10 to 15 returns, I'd say you get to where you're pretty comfortable with it. And support answers the phone in an average of 6 seconds. So if you're not certain, it just takes 2 rings and you've got somebody on the phone.
Yeah. The support department definitely is a reason why it's so highly rated. And I know that people that have used Drake and gone through many tax seasons with Drake always speak very highly about that support component and being there when you need them most. And so again, we try you guys to really bring you partners and deals where we have shared values with the company. And so we really have just a ton of respect what Steven and his family business and all their team members have been able to do, and just the regard that they put us as tax professionals in. And part of how that happens is to give yourself a great deal. I think it's been a pretty brutal year in a lot of ways. And as you look over the next 12 months, right, like, what does your career look like? Do you want to Do you want to add new services? Do you want to maybe take away services? You know, maybe you're doing too many different services. You want to focus into one service. And so what we want to do with this deal is, especially if you're looking at moving into doing more business client work, you know, so maybe you are considering enrolling in our business tax verified training program, which actually we do a lot of the training in that on Drake, because Adam Shea, CPA Adam Shea, our co-creator, he's been a Drake user for a long time. And so if you're thinking about working with more business clients, but you're just apprehensive about the costs, right? You're apprehensive about all these different companies getting attached to your bank account and drawing out that monthly amount, you know, and just having your costs go up, up, and up when you're just building it up, you know, this could be a great solution for you. So if you guys want to take advantage of this offer, just go to that link right there. That URL is bit.ly/1099 bonus. Did you want to add anything else, Stephen? I feel like we covered a lot of ground.
The one I'd just like to add, you already kind of stressed this too. If you guys do have any questions or anything that we haven't addressed, Andy did provide an address, an email address. You can email any of those follow-up questions. I'd be glad to work on. So if there's anything that you came here today wanting answered and we maybe didn't do it well enough, or you still have additional questions, we're more than happy to address those.
Very cool. All right, guys, I told you it was going to be a stress-free webinar, so hopefully it came out that way. I know I learned stuff, and that's always fun. Thank you, Stephen, so much for investing your time to be with us and teach us new stuff and give us your perspective. We really appreciate it, and also to be able to offer this exclusive deal with you guys. You know, it's really a privilege and an honor, so we really appreciate it. Thank you, Stephen.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it as well.
And thanks, Jeff, as always, to setting everything up and making the stuff actually work. We can't forget that. I really appreciate you, Jeff, and definitely appreciate everyone that attended. You know, that's number one. We take time every day to be grateful for you guys for actually being our members, being part of the community. So always want to mention that to conclude the webinar. So have an awesome day. Thank you so much. And until next time.